Hello and welcome back. Today we're gonna leave the business side of the so that we can focus on the science of what happens when you leave the studio. We have discussed transparency in pricing and how to master your consultation. Now I want to address another black box of tattooing. The phase where most people actually ruin their investment because they don't understand the biological process happening under the skin. I'm talking about the science of aftercare. Most artists, even myself, would give you a flare like a flyer and tell you to wash it with antibacterial soap. But that's really the bare minimum. Today, I'm going to give you the technical masterclass of what's actually happening and what your body is actually doing to the ink that we just put into the skin, and how you can manipulate the process to ensure your tattoo heals with maximum saturation and no blurs. First, we have to understand the inflammatory phase. The moment the needle leaves your skin, the body treats your tattoo as a wound, essentially. It isn't art to your immune system, it's an invasion. Your white blood cells immediately rush to that area to try and consume all of the ink particles. Now, because professional ink particles are too large for your white blood cells to engulf, your body just eventually gives up and traps the ink in layers called fibroblasts. This is what makes a tattoo permanent. But in the first 48 hours, the tattooed area is in a high state of trauma. This is why plasma and weeping happens. But if you allow that plasma to dry on the surface of the skin, it can lead to the formation of very thick scabs. And a thick scab is an enemy of any high quality tattoo. Why, you might ask? It is because the scabs harden, and as it hardens, it anchors itself to the ink in your dermis. So now when these scabs eventually fall off or they get bumped, it pulls the ink with it, leaving you with holidays or gaps in your saturation. So your goal in the first 2 days is active moisture management. You're not just cleaning the tattoo, you're actively and physically removing excess plasma before it has a chance to scab. This keeps the wound open enough to heal from the bottom up rather than from the top down. I hope that was a little bit informative. But next, I'd like to also move on to the barrier method or traditional healing, or rather, the barrier method versus traditional healing. You've likely seen these transparent medical grade barrier film, often called second skin, applied to tattoos. This is a massive leap in tattoo technology, but it is often misused. The benefit of these barriers is that they keep tattoo in a moist, healing environment. It keeps your own natural fluids in contact with the wound, which significantly speeds up cellular regeneration. However, the risk here is excessive fluid accumulation. So, if you develop a large ink sac on a fresh tattoo, the weight and the enzymes in that fluid can actually begin to macerate the skin if left for too long. If you're using a barrier film, you actually need to monitor it. If it leaks, then its sterile seal is technically broken. At that point, that bandage might actually become a petri dish for bacteria. So ideally, you would want to remove it immediately and wash it thoroughly with a fragrance-free antibacterial soap, or rather a mild soap. It doesn't necessarily always have to be antibacterial because there can be issues there. And then you can pivot to traditional healing. Do not patch a leaking bandage. Now we can move on to the peeling and itching phase. This usually happens around the fourth or 5 day mark. The top layer of your epidermis, the part that the needle passes through, it is going to flake off and die, or rather die and flake off. It can flake off before it dies. This is where most clients who haven't gone through this process before panic. You will see flakes of colored skin coming off and then automatically assume that the tattoo is falling out. It's an obvious cause for panic, but there's no need to panic because it isn't falling out. It's just the dead skin that was traumatized during the tattoo session. The actual tattoo is safe and locked in the dermis below. But this phase also brings the itch, and the itch can be a little bit of a technical trap. When you scratch a healing tattoo, you're causing micro tears in that new fragile skin. This will cause secondary inflammation, which can lead to silver skin. That is that shiny, thin looking skin that looks a bit like scar tissue. This will often then also make the tattoo look dull and blurry. So instead of scratching, you want to apply a pretty thin layer of breathable ointment, and it usually should not be petroleum based. The key word there is breathable. Petroleum based products like Vaseline are occlusive. They can trap heat and bacteria, right against the skin, which can then lead to tattoo pimples or even localized infection that can end up eating the tattoo. Finally, I think we have to also discuss long-term UV protection. The healing process isn't necessarily over after the tattoo stops peeling. The healing process isn't over when the peeling stops. The body can take up to 6 months, or rather the skin can take up to 6 months for it to fully remodel and the ink to fully settle. During this time, the new skin is incredibly thin and has no natural defense against ultraviolet light or radiation. UV rays are essentially laser-guided ink destroyers. They break down the chemical bonds of the pigment, causing it to spread and fade. If you spend hundreds of bucks or thousands of bucks on a new tattoo and then go to the beach sunbathing 2 weeks later down the line without any protection over that tattoo, you are essentially throwing money away. Once the tattoo is fully closed, meaning no more scabbing or peeling, sunscreen becomes your most important aftercare from that point onwards for the rest of your life, or at least when you are in the sun and you want the tattoo to remain vibrant, 40, 50 years down the line. From understanding the black box of healing, you move from being a passive observer into an actual guardian of your art. If you're interested in the specific ointment that I recommend, I've attached a link in the description below. My name is Washington. Thanks for watching up until this point. Till next time, stay inked. And I guess I'd also be interested in hearing your thoughts, views, and opinions in and around the topic of aftercare in the comment section below. I'd like us to start some sort of discussion, to share insights and ideas that other people might also find value in.